Hello, everyone, and welcome to the preview session of Legaltech Around the World. I'm Terri Motteshead. I'm the Executive Director of the Centre for Legal Innovation at the College of Law, and I'm beyond excited and delighted to say that we are offering this series for free, both as a video and a podcast, in collaboration with our very good friend, David Bushby, who's the Managing Director of In Counsel and, of course, In Counsel as well. Hi, David.
G'day, Terri. Good to be here. Hi, everyone.
We're kind of excited about this for a whole bunch of different reasons, and we're going to get into, in this preview session, kind of what you can expect from the series, or what we're anticipating we might expect, I guess, David, right?
Yeah, indeed. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So David, you have agreed, and we're delighted to be the facilitator and the host of the series. So let me start by asking you to introduce yourself, your history with legal tech and why In Counsel decided to collaborate with us on this. And by the way, we're, again, very excited that you are.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, look, I'm really excited to be collaborating. I love this space. I live and breathe legal tech. I've spent half of my now 18-year career in the legal services industry. It's split half between the practice of law, whether that be in law firms or in-house, through to the other half being in startups, and all of those startups being in the legal tech space. So I love that intersection between law and tech and the future of work. I've been featuring legal tech tools in a newsletter for legal tech tools for the last 7 years. So there's been over 1,000 tech tools in the legal space that I've featured and met founders during that time that started out as, a solo founder or a co-founder and ended up building, multi-million, even billion-dollar companies right now. So it's been really great to have that, to sort of share that journey in the legal technology landscape. And then, of course, In Counsel itself is a part lawyer marketplace and part legal tech consultancy, helping legal teams find the best lawyers and legal tools for their purposes. And so, yeah, I just love what you guys are doing, Terri, at the Centre for Legal Innovation. I love this topic. So, yeah, glad to be here and shed some light and talk to some people around the world about what they're seeing.
It's going to be fabulous to draw on that really deep history that you've got in this part of the legal ecosystem as well, David. I kind of can't wait for that. But I thought I'd jump in, throw some stats out there so that folks kind of, again, know how this series is placed. At the moment, we have truly an amazing global faculty of 25 folks. We expect we will add a few more to that as we progress during next year. And, from 7 different regions around the world. So we've really basically drawn people from countries within the region and then looked at, or we're going to be looking at the region as well. So with that in mind, let me throw this question at you. Do you think that we're going to see more similarities than differences in, say, focus, approach, priority, usage, uptake, and everything else, or vice versa? What are you anticipating at this point?
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see how this actually plays out. But I guess to hazard a guess, I do think we'll probably see more similarities than differences, particularly around the categories of legal tech tools that we're seeing. And probably the most common pain point is the contracting pain point, which seems to be a global phenomenon, regardless of what country you're in or what language you're speaking. CLM right now, or contracting tools, are definitely the hottest thing going right now. Yeah. There is an explosion of new players in the market. There's an absolute explosion of funding in that vertical around the world. And I just feel that the contracting problem will be very similar. But we'll see. We'll see what the emphasis in. Maybe it's more tilted towards B2C type solutions or lawyer marketplaces, or maybe it's more AI in certain countries. But I do think that probably the contracting point, anything to do with contracting, might be the common theme throughout. In terms of uptake, though, I think there will be some differences in uptake in different regions of the world. Whether how far as a country is or a region along that sort of innovation curve from sort of early adopter through to laggard. I think different regions will be sitting on that spectrum on different points of the curve. And to sort of take an example, like I think we'd see a lot of action in the US, of course. We see a lot of action coming out of Europe. Even Australia, there's plenty of sort of innovative companies and people, wanting to do things differently. But in certain parts of the world, and I take Asia as an example, some Asian countries are still not really adopting e-signatures like other parts of the world are. Wet signing is still really common, as is physical stamps of documents in order to get a signed document happening. So e-signatures, it's one of those things that was forced upon a lot of us more recently with lockdowns, etc. But even so, it's not fully globally adopted just yet. And I think there's a pattern of that type of where they are on the innovation curve. E-signatures is just one example, but that probably translates into, okay, what about a fully digital contracting experience? Well, if you're not adopting e-signatures, then it's probably unlikely that a full digital contracting experience will be adopted in a particular region. So I think we'll see differences in adoption, but the main pain points will probably be pretty similar. That's my guess.
Yeah. Well, we get to test you on that, later. Later, we'll come back and revisit this towards the end of next year, right? Yeah. But it's going to be nice to see, as you say, whether the focus is on almost the smaller aspects or whether they're all joining together and the focus is on the bigger aspects. And I guess the nice part about this, and again, just going back to our faculty, is that that's been drawn from folks that are designers and developers and consumers and kind of everything in between. So it'll be really interesting to see also if they have a different take on these things, kind of depending where they're coming from. To what extent do you think that sort of background, if you like, of the faculty as we focus in each region, how do you think that will inform or impact the sessions more broadly as well?
Yeah, I think just to take maybe the designers, and if by design you're sort of talking about the legal design area, I think that's probably one of the least mature of those segments. So people solving for legal design problems. And I'm really interested to see what parts of the world are the most advanced in that discipline. Like, are there pockets? I mean, again, to sort of hazard a guess on this, it seems to be a lot of action coming out of Europe in the legal design space. And so I'm not sure, I haven't sort of gotten across everyone on the faculty, but it'd be good to get their views on what the uptake is on the design side is like. The other area where things might differ a bit is that there's a lot of tools that come out and really focusing on the B2B space. I think the lion's share of things are all B2B productivity related tools for lawyers. But that's probably where the most money is, and certainly the number of tools are focused in that area. But I think as far as the number of users are concerned, I think B2C is still where most of the users of legal services are. So to the extent you have got people in the faculty that are focused in on solving B2C legal issues, affordability, access to justice, those sorts of platforms, I'd be interested to see where they're at in different regions, and if certain regions have more of a focus on B2C versus, say, the B2B solutions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, in some places we're seeing, I'm just going to call it almost a self-help evolution, maybe a revolution in that kind of B2C market. So it will be really interesting to see how that goes. And as you said, to what extent the legal ecosystem nuances are kind of being taken into account in those design issues. So a couple definitely are really fascinating pieces there. I guess the other question that I want to ask you is this. What do you think is different about this series from others? And for me, it's that we're going to have access to that local knowledge and experience, but be able to see that on a global kind of scale or viewpoint as well. What is it for you, do you think, that's different about this series?
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen a series that from the get-go focuses on the global look and the global landscape. We're so used to seeing the lion's share of content coming out of the US. That's where most of the new tools are being set up. It's where most of the funding's at. It's where most of the infrastructure around education, associations, peak bodies, like the US is by and far streaks ahead of the rest of the world. So we're used to seeing a lot of stuff come out of the US and some of the other major, maybe Europe as well, other major centers. But I think to really drill down on other regions who would otherwise, and every region, I should say, does have their own local meetups, peak bodies, associations and whatnot. But in terms of discovering those, like, it's going to be the people that reside probably in those regions that are attending those meetups or getting involved in their local or regional legal tech ecosystem. So there's plenty of coverage around the world, but to sort of bring that together in one series is something I've not seen before. So it'd be good to sort of come to one spot and listen to all the different stories in one hit at a certain point of time and get a feel for what's happening around the world, not just in the US or in Europe, all those major centers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real possibility of creating new connections, certainly expanding networks, but creating new connections as well. And I'm sure you're as excited about that opportunity or possibility as well as I am, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of hard to discover legal tech, particularly in languages, for me, other than English. Like, it is harder. It's harder to find it. It doesn't come across your desk as naturally. If it does come across your desk in another language other than English, it's just harder to discover the technology, and therefore harder to reach out to the people behind those technologies if it's in Chinese or if it's in Japanese. And sometimes you go to a website that's all written in Chinese, and you've got to hit Google Translate and you've got to try and figure it all out. Like, there's the language barrier is there. And sometimes, and I think we're at risk of thinking, well, there's not much happening in certain countries or certain regions, but the fact is there's a lot happening in those countries. Like, it was probably a couple of years ago when I started to look at some of the tech coming out of Russia, and me not knowing the language or anyone locally, I just thought maybe there's not much there. But as soon as I met someone and just made those first connections, it just that ecosystem exploded for me. There was a whole bunch of people producing great tech, a lot more infrastructure than I thought. And just sometimes it's the language barrier that contributes, and it'd be good to just break that down a bit and give everyone a sense of what's going on, outside of their own backyard. Yeah,
because to me the empowering part about tech is that it is actually borderless.
Yeah,
and and so I'm kind of wondering, how important do you think that aspect of tech is going to be as the series unfolds?
Yeah, it's so borderless. That's one of the big takeaways of featuring these legal tech tools from around the world. Is, I mean, I might see a video explainer in Estonian, and I broadly know that this is about a contracting problem, and the video explainer has maybe an animation and it's talking about a contracting problem of some sort, and I'm watching that explainer video, and just by the visual I know exactly what they're saying, even though I can't understand the language. Just by looking at the visuals, wow, they have that exact same, the redlining issue or the negotiation issue or the email ping and pong issue. They're just like, I could probably subtitle it myself and do a pretty good job, because it's amazing how the exact same pain points, particularly around contracting, are global and are borderless. So that's one thing, you know, I see a lot of. And what else? There's the other pain points like finding lawyers as well. Like just about every region around the world has their kind of collection of lawyer marketplaces. So you know, the pain of finding lawyers, the pain of getting transparency around pricing, access to justice, engaging lawyers, like that's another pain point that just seems to be global. Wherever you are, everyone's experiencing that problem. And I'm yet to really see any vertical of legal technology that is exclusive just to one country. So I've never seen a tool that exists in a certain part of the world, or a series of tools that go into solving one legal problem that only that country faces. It's really rare to see that. I've never had to, when trying to categorize the legal technology, I've never had to kind of split off a category that is specific to a particular country or region. Like, it's, you know, a particular legal tech category, it just applies globally without exception. I'm sure there's probably a few out there where there's specific legal issues per country, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. And maybe that's a question I'll ask during the as we go through different regions. Just you know, a question to the panelists there would be, you know, is there something in your country that is specific and needed in the legal technology space that no other country has a need for? That would just be interesting. Curious.
And it's going to also be interesting, I think, as you explore that, to understand more about constraints. I'm sure there'll be different legislative and regulations, you know, and regimes in different countries, but the extent to which they've been modified or changed and are a constraint, or indeed support the development of tech, is going to be kind of interesting as well. There's so many bits to talk about, David. It's going to be like amazing. Going to squash them all into 1 hour sessions for each region. It's we might have to do series number 2 in 2023. Just saying, you know, it might happen. It might happen. Look, you know, as I said at the beginning, just absolutely delighted to be working with you and within council on this series, where we're really, really, really excited about it. It's kicking off on the 21st of February, and with Australia and New Zealand, they're kind of the first region and countries within that region that we're going to start with. And as I said at the beginning, we'll be wrapping up and testing the preview around about October next year as well. So the sessions will run about every month. So thank you very much again, David. Really appreciate it. And what's your parting words of wisdom as we close out the preview?
Parting words of wisdom. I don't know, just stay curious. Stay curious. Don't worry about how I don't know, tech savvy you are, or, you know, how familiar you are with technology or hardcore technologies. Just stay curious, be curious, and that's, I think, all we need.
Yeah, absolutely. And you will, if you want to, lots of information will be available. We'll make sure information about our respective newsletters are there, but please also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter at the very least, because you'll be getting kind of regular updates about the series there as well. So with all of that said, David, see you in 2022, and thank you very much again, and see all of you there as well. That's going to be great.
Absolutely. Thank you. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.